Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today, I want to chat about unit coherency. With the rules getting dropped for Warhammer Age of Sigmar 3rd edition, we've seen a ton of things come, from endless spells to new command abilities to monstrous abilities and heroic abilities and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think any rule has quite caused as much of an uproar as unit coherency. Now, Warhammer 40,000 players, and I have played a tiny bit of Warhammer 40,000, may know this rule. It came into effect with the latest edition of Warhammer 40k in 9th edition, and they have a very similar rule. Now, their rule does allow for 2-inch coherency, which is what 40k is. They have like 2-inch zones around models and all that sort of stuff. Now, the Age of Sigmar variation we'll get into talking about a little bit does have 1-inch. So there are some very big differences between the two rules and how they interact with the game. But I wasn't a fan of this rule when I first read it. However, I keep looking at it more and more, and I keep trying to think about like how we're going to change the game, why we're doing this, what it is trying to do. And the more and more I think about it, the more I start to like it and understand the rule that's in the game. So, with that said, let's get looking at the actual rule. And so, the rule. Rule 1.3.3 Unit Coherency. Units must be set up and finish every move as a single coherent group. A unit with 2 to 5 models is coherent if each model in the unit is within 1 inch horizontally and 6 inch vertically of at least one other model in the unit. A unit with more than 5 models is coherent if each model is within 1 inch horizontally and 6 inch vertically of at least 2 other models in the unit. If a friendly unit is not coherent at the end of a turn or after you set it up, you must remove models from the unit one at a time until the unit is coherent. So, couple of things for this. Now, the first thing to note is it says units must be set up coherent, and then it tells you that you can remove models to make them coherent. So, I think it's trying to tell us, first of all, that you can set up models so that they're not coherent and then remove them. This is maybe in the case of, you know, something like getting out of a Caradron airship, etc. And being able to sacrifice models to keep some of them alive. So there's that. Now also, 2 to 5 models, they pretty much have the same generic rules we've always had in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Cool. They're fine. Any unit of 2 to 5 models, there's nothing to worry about there. You literally play them as you were playing them before. However, a unit with 5 or more models is different now, and that it must be within 2 models. Now, we have an army that's literally been having to do this for almost a year now, and that's Lumineth Realm Lords. And I think a lot of Lumineth Realm Lords players will understand how this rule works a lot better than other players. They're probably not going to freak out about it either, just because they know how it works. It's a very common rule that they have to use in order to get their Shining Company ability. Now, with that said, this does bring some interesting points. I think some units are going to be winners and losers, and we'll talk about that now. So, the next thing I want to talk about is, how some units are winners and losers, and actually, I don't even think that's a proper term. I think different sizes of different units become winners and losers in the game. Now, you're going to look at 2-inch reach models, and straight away they're going to be winners. Anything with 2-inch reach is going to be cool. Now, what's even better about this is units like say Mortek Guard here on a 25mm bases with 2-inch reach are pretty much going to not change at all in how they're used. In fact, maybe the only difference is maybe we start to see large units with spears now of some of these smaller units, rather than, you know, seeing the sword and board variations we did before. This is because they've got the 2-inch reach, so they're able to fight in a block and still get all those attacks in. Now, there's an interesting thing with this as well, in that these blocks of troops are going to get less attacks in, but is that really the purpose of those troops? Are they trying to be dealing damage? If they're trying to deal damage, then maybe you should be going for something else. The large blocks of troops very much seem to be defensive units now in how this unit coherency is going to work, and they're going to sit and hold objectives. Bodies on the table are still going to matter, so having these large blobs of troops holding your objectives is going to be massively important. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about elite troops, which I feel do get hurt by unit coherency, but not in a bad way. Elite troops, seeing giant blobs of elite troops as the main force of someone's army really does sort of go against, I guess, what these elite troops are supposed to be. When you're seeing 10-man units of Free Good Guards sit at the backfield, and then all of a sudden you've got, you know, 30-man units of Iron Drakes, or let's say Free Guild Greatswords at the front, it doesn't really make sense that the large units are going to be getting all those models in. Like, they should be the elite troops. They should have less. So it does seem what they've tried to do with elite troops is make them much more shock troops in smaller numbers. Now, there will be some that get, I guess, a benefit out of this. Those elite troops with 2-inch reach, are going to be much more efficient. So we're going to talk about things like trogs, because they have a 2-inch reach, or cavalry that are like Dawn Riders with their 2-inch reach, because there's some really cool formations you can do with that. And we'll look at a couple of little formations on how to use particular units to maybe give you some ideas of how you can play your games. And I'm going to aim to try and not pick stupid looking ones, because there are definitely some that just break the immersion. So I'm going to try and give you formations that look nice on the table so you can play the game to the best of your ability as well. Now, you also have things like Bulgars, which don't have a 2-inch reach. They have a 1-inch reach and on massive bases. So they're going to want to fight in units of 3. And this is fine. I like that this is going to separate units being good in 3s, units being good in 6s. It's definitely, I think, going to bring back MSU to the game, or multiple small units. And we're going to see a lot less massive horde armies, except for those that are really going to be being defensive. Because you're going to have like Mortec Guard and all that are going to remain in like large blobs, because they're going to sit and hold on objectives. So that's fine, and we're going to have these different uses. It's about trying to think on how these unit size changes affect your army and how they affect the units and how you play with them. Your unit might not work the same it used to work if you're having to change all these unit sizes and change how you play due to coherency. I will say one thing, that 2-man units of things like Dracoth Cavalry, Morghasts, and the like are definitely massive winners from this, because they can go to 4-man units and still get a ton of output out of them. So they're definitely big winners from those coherency rules. So let's talk a little bit about how we can do different coherency formations. For starters, a thin line of 25mm bases. You can see these on the right of the picture I've got here. They actually don't need to do anything but stand on a line, because they are 25mm, that's less than an inch, meaning that you are automatically in range of the next 2 models next to you in the straight line. So this is great for 25mm armies. Things like Skaven, who love their screens and stuff like that, you can continue playing how you were playing. You just don't have to have those, you can't have those gaps you sort of previously had. You're not having to have full lines of models, which is fine. You can do this with like Death as well and all that sort of stuff. There's plenty of armies that can make use of this type of screening, which is pretty much almost exactly what you paid. Maybe you're going to have to fit an extra screen there, or be like a bit more careful with where you put your screens and stuff like that, but they definitely still work how they used to work, pretty much the same. Now the 32mm bases are what I got on the next one, the Nomadi Thralls. Now they've only got a 1-inch reach, and I wanted to use a 1-inch reach unit for an example because of this. Now of course you've got 2- and 3-inch reach units, things like your Lumineth Wardens and all that, that can pretty much just rank up normally. Obviously they've been doing that already with the Shining Company rules. Now Nomadi Thralls, you sort of have to do this little bit of spacing, and I don't think it's going to take long before we start seeing this come out from movement trade companies, or even Games Workshop. Games Workshop, please make some movement trays that help play the game how you're wanting us to play it. But movement trade companies will soon be out with these. I've already shared them to a mate of mine who runs a movement trade. You can actually see his logo here, Terrainheim, fantastic dude and fantastic company that I get a lot of my stuff through. And yeah, your 32mm bases, you just have to fight like this. I mean, you can see here, I've measured out the 1-inch reach. You got like this little sort of zigzag. And I know people are going to talk about, oh, well, I can pick out the middle model. Well, you could before anyway. So the aim is, you're playing a Gargant that can stuff you into your pants, deploy in a deeper block. Like, that is how you do it. Or fight after the Gargant, or hope to do damage. I mean, if 10 Nomadi Thralls are going into a Gargant, they're doing damage and then they're dying anyway. So, you know, there's not much that changes with that. The issue comes with like shooting ones, and they're a lot less prevalent. I mean, Marathi lost hers, so she can no longer do it, and it seems like all the shooting ones in general are just going away. So that'll be something to sort of think about. That you can do is like just knowing those ones that can pick up and remove models out of the game. That's maybe something. There's not many of them to remember. But there, this is a look at 25 and 32, and I think it's really easy just to make these units work. Alright, so next let's look at some cavalry. I've got a formation up here, and now, no, yes, I know you can say the Dawn Riders, they should be in Shining Company formation, but when they charge, they lose it anyway, so this is how they're going to be charging in. You can keep in Shining Company to stay defensive, and then move into this when you make your charges. Now, cavalry, the Dawn Riders are on the slightly bigger than 25mm. The 25mm bases, as long as you got 2-inch reach, you just sort of form up in 2 ranks. The 50mm, because you're less than 2 inches at that point. On the Dawn Riders, they're like the 65 or something like that. They're slightly bigger, so you can't perfectly rank up and reach behind. But what this formation allows you to do is 2-inch reach weapons. You can get all your riders in, which is cool. I mean, you're going to lose the mounts on this, but, you know, I guess thematically, the mounts in the second rank aren't going to do as much. So, for me, this is pretty cool. Now, the issue with this is not every cavalry has 2-inch reach. And is that a problem? I don't think it is, personally. I think there's going to be cavalry that are going to be better taken into multiple small units of 5 or 3 when we get looking at elite stuff in the next slide. But I think this gives options for different sorts of cavalry. Do you take 5? Do you take 10? So this is definitely an option. But this is a really cool formation. I think this looks really nice on the table as well, this particular formation. And I'll be running cavalry pretty much like this throughout the edition. I've already talked to my mate about getting some of the movement trays done up for this particular style of cavalry formation. So let's see what it's like. Now, big bases. This is where the issue starts to hit. On large units, this is the Vanguard size base. I've got Dragon Ogres here as the models I'm using. Now, the glaives for the Dragon Ogres have a 2-inch reach, so they can hit over the back. That's what you can see how I've got my 2-inch reach for those ones there. And then you've got the 1-inch gap between them all. Every model here is within 1 inch of 2 other models from the unit. This is where it starts getting a bit weird, is these larger model units. You know, your opponent's going to have to go in a straight line, but though there are ways you can probably get around this with like curving it and stuff like that. But I think this is where coherency becomes an issue, is for these large units. So definitely, this is where it gets a little bit weird and a little bit iffy. And so I'm wondering what they're going to do about this, or in fact if like all these units are just going to go up in points and we're going to see less models on the board and 3-man units are going to be the norm. So there could be a lot of things to happen in this edition, and I think we need to see the points to sort of know how we're going. If we are going to get those massive point increases across the board like we did with 40k, then I think we're going to see only 3-man units of these units anyway, so it's probably not going to matter all that much. But I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on unit coherency. What do you think? What do you want to see? Are there some changes? I mean, I don't think it's a perfect rule. I think there are definitely some changes that can be made. But with that said, leave some comments down below, let us know, and let's have a good discussion about this all. Well, thank you all for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Also, while you're at it, why not come chat more with us on Discord? We've got a link in the description of the video below to our Discord server. You can come chat with me and other members of our fine little community here at Sinful Gaming. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel in various different ways. First of all, to our Patreon members, Christian Weir, James Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lowe, Outer and Shot First, James Crowder, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, Tim Newman, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, MJ, and Dyna226. Thank you to, as well, our YouTube members, Green Roots Gaming, Fire Titan, Steve T, The Real Zeot, Chris Wallace, Turiot12, Vinny, and Loch Lorick. And a special thanks to our artist who does all the channel art for us, Lady Witchfox Art, thank you very much. And to our Discord moderator, Xmorphic, you do a fantastic job on Discord for us as well. Thank you all, everyone, for watching. If you'd like to help support on Patreon or YouTube member, or help support the channel in another way, you can do so by following one of the links in the description of the video to Patreon or YouTube members, or go buy some Sinful Gaming merch from our Teespring store, also linked in the video's description. That's it for today, everyone. Thank you again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.